review of Judge Dredd from Bally.
Let's go!
I am okay. Whose life is a bore? The least I've gotten laid before. Are you ready, 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 ready for your eye exam?
Showtime! It is Judge Dredd from Bally, released in 1993, designed by John Trudeau, total jerk. Art by Kevin O'Connor, software by Jeff Johnson, sound by Paul Heisch and Vince Pontarelli, and I didn't realize this till I looked it up. Call us by Tim Kitzrow. Wait, I got him. Where's my sound effects? Here we go.
Kaboom!
There you go. There's Tim Kitzrow. Pricing on this game. So Nick and I talked about bang for the buck games to feature on this segment. So we picked Judge Dredd, Doctor Who, or Fishtails for our channel subscribers to pick. And Judge Dredd won out by one vote when I checked this morning. So that was the winner. So when I bought this game back in 2013, I paid $1,600 for it. Nowadays, according to Pinside, pricing is $2,680 to $3,120. So
that's how much I bought it for in 2011. My third game ever.
$1,100?
$1,200, very close.
$1,200, okay. Yeah, so that's the other thing. Nick and I have both owned this game, so we can speak very, very from firsthand experience on this game, which is cool. I actually owned this game twice. I had sold it, and then another one came up for a very good deal, but like a year later, and I got it for $1,500. So it was an even nicer one that I got for less. But I ended up trading that towards my Addams Family, which I still have today. So this is Judge Dredd. Let's get into the cabinet art. So
RLM, well, I just want to address one thing. RLM in chat says, newsflash, there are no bang for your buck games anymore. The pandemic has taken prices to crazy land. Well, I disagree. I disagree about. Can we talk about that for a sec?
What? Go ahead.
Off the rails. Hijacking the interview. I still see it's bang for buck. First of all, what I paid in 2011, I mean, you got to factor in inflation, and there's just more demand for pinball machines. So all games have gone up, right? And these games, and like I bought it in 2011. I had it for a few months, and I sold it, I think, for $1,500. So if you buy it today, you should, and you pay the right price, you're still going to get your money back. I would still say this is a pretty good bang for your buck game. So we can move on. I wanted to keep that short, unless you want to add to that.
I mean, the relative value of everything has gone up, but they hold their value too, right? So, and time passes, there's time value of money, inflation, all that stuff. So everything factored in, you still get a lot of game for 2021 pricing on these games, even at like $3,000 for a Dredd. There's mechs and gameplay in there that you're going to get a lot out of, even though it may not be on the same level as a brand new Cerner JJP game. All right, so let's get back into the picture. So the categories we're going to cover are art, sound, toys, display and lighting, gameplay, rules, and lastability, like we always do. So let's kick it off with art. Like I said, art by Kevin O'Connor. I think the art is very well done. So if you think of 90s and you think Judge Dredd, you might be thinking the Sylvester Stallone movie, but it's not based on that. It's based on the comics, which is always go with the comic version. Don't go with the movie version. And they did it right. The art is really well done. What's funny is I see like alternative art packages for this game, and I'm like, why? Because the art is really good. I mean, it's cool, but I would not replace the art on this. Unless, as you can see in this picture that I have up, the cabinet does tend to fade. So if the cabinet fades and you want to upgrade, because that's supposed to be red or orangey letters on the front of the game, and the red and orange fades out as a lot of these 90s Bally Williams games did. So, but the style and the execution of the art is very well done. We can look at it on the play field here too. Again, very cool, awesome comic art throughout this game. I think it's great.
I do too. Really good art. I mean, you can't help but think of maybe Demo Man, because it also falls in the kind of price range when it came out, and also Sylvester Stallone, and Demo Man was based on that movie. Demo Man does not have great art. It's very basic. It's like Terminator 2-esque the way they approach this art, but the art on this is fantastic. And I believe when this game was released, the flyer or the game came with like a comic book too.
Yeah, the
the game.
promo flyer of it is
Yeah.
is comic. It's a fold out comic book spread, which is cool.
Yeah, I don't love the side art of the cabinet. It's a little plain as Judge Dredd on his motorcycle, but the playfield art and the backlash / translite, really good.
Yeah, I think I have an up close here of the translate. Well, it's not a low quality, not a very high quality one, but there it is.
Yeah, someone said, Hot Shower Boy said the newer Judge Dredd movie is good and much more loyal to the original comic style. Yeah, that's by the way, if you've not seen the new Judge Dredd movie, which new is now 2012, one of my favorite movies of all time. Super well done.
All right, I apologize for showing the topper already and getting everybody excited, but we'll get to that later. By everybody, I think
Gordon's
you know who
hot
I'm
and
talking
bothered.
about. Yeah. So sound. We have sound by Paul Heitch, Vince Ponarelli. It's by Tim Kitzrow. I think the sound is very well done on this game. It's got kind of a metal, hard rock kind of vibe to it, which you would want in a game like this. I can still hear the and all the little sound effects are very well done.
Really good.
Call outs are really good. I think of the 5 years for flatulence and all that stuff there in the game.
Yeah.
And at the end of the game with the granny with the shotgun. I don't know, there's just so many cool, fun. It's even though it's like a serious-ish theme, it's still fun and funny. I don't know. Music sound is great to me. What do you think?
I think it's fantastic, especially when you look in the time period that was made, right? You got to judge it within that. Really well done, really good music. Like Kevin said, I can hear it in my head. It's just really like wailing 90s, like like we always kind of imitate the music when we're playing, and we love it.
Yeah.
The good humor. There's multiple like announcers in the game, like multiple like voices. What is Tim Kitzrow doing? Do you know?
I don't know. Hey,
Who
there
he
are
voices?
some.
I didn't realize he was in there.
I didn't either. There's a female voiceover artist in here too, and she didn't get the call.
Yeah,
out,
I forgot she plays I forgot what that character's called, but
she's
the
got a
character's
punny
also
name that I can't remember.
Yeah, the character's also in the newer Judge Dredd movie, so it's part of, I never read the comics. I don't know too much about Judge Dredd lore, but yeah, she's in it.
Yeah, so great sound. Toys, everybody's favorite category in the YouTube comments is to talk about the toys. So let's talk about toys in Judge Dredd. It's got some cool ones. You want some toys? This is a game with toys. It's got the crane on the far left there. You can see it in the back that feeds balls from the Dead World, which is the big spinning planet. We should note that there are two versions of the Dead World. A lot of times people will talk about the Dead World mod on this game, which takes a standard version, which it doesn't hold the balls. It just it will stage one for the final one that you lock. But the original design was that you would feed the balls up the left ramp. They would divert onto this Dead World planet, and they would spin around and hover. So
really cool. I put it on my game right before the timing was bad, man. I put the mod on right before I sold it, so I never really got to enjoy it that much. But it's a cool mod.
yeah, there's an up close version. This has the mod version on it. So the mod version has holes to hold the balls. The final version has kind of slots there where the ball will fall out. So
yeah, the interesting thing is like this was the mod version what was supposed to be originally in the game, and it got cut I think for reliability issues. But you don't have to do it once you install the mod. You don't have to change the software at all because it's still it's baked into the software to work that way.
Yeah, I think you need the 1.0 software. So it's if you have later software, it's not in there.
Okay,
so
I didn't have to change it. It just worked. I just installed the mod, and it wasn't. I don't think it was too hard.
Yeah.
To put the mod in.
But it's very, very common to see this, especially with collectors. They'll put this in. But I think there's potential issues for hangups on location that they did away with that for. So, but in a home collection, definitely I would recommend adding the Dead World mod. It's cool as heck. It does slow the game down a little bit because when you don't have the mod in, it does virtual locks for 1 and 2.
Yep.
And then it will take ball 3 and divert it over and then feed it to the crane. But when you have it in, then it feeds ball 1, it goes onto the Dead World, it locks it, and then you go back into play. So very cool, awesome toys. I think that is basically the extent of the toys. You've got other features in it, like the sniper tower, which is an up kicker on the right side that feeds. I don't remember. Does that feed 1 ramp or 2? I can't remember.
I can't remember either, Kev.
It's been a while.
I think just 1. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of wire forms on this. Yeah, it feeds that one upper wire form that feeds to the left, I believe, and the other. I'm trying to remember how everything feeds, but yeah. So, but the Dead World is your main toy. Very cool. Up there with some of the better toys in pinball, I would say, especially with the mod.
You need the mod. I would say the toy is sort of unremarkable without the mod, though. Like, I was surprised to hear you say like it's got a lot of toys, or if you love toys, or it's one of the better toys, because it's sort of okay without the mod. It's nothing special, but when you put the mod in, that's when it shines.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm thinking of. That combined with the crane that takes them off there, it's a pretty cool combo of interactivity with a physical ball lock. That's the kind of like wow moments you look for in a pinball toy, right? Like it's doing something
Highly
cool.
recommend the mod. Highly recommend the mod. I think there's some futzing around getting like the optos to align. I think that's the hard part with it. Like, and it can go out of alignment, but if you got it in a home environment, then it's great. I wouldn't put the mod in and then put it out on location. I think you're asking for trouble.
Yeah, I agree. Display and lighting. Why don't you kick it off for display and lighting?
I'm better at talking about display. I think the DMD is really good. I think there's good humor in this game in terms of what the DMD does. The lighting, I don't remember too much about it, so I think it's going to be on par with a Bally Williams game from 1993, right? It is exactly what you would expect from that era. But the DMD is well done, I think.
Yeah, the DMD, and especially this is one of the ones when I think about a color DMD, I think this game just really shines when you put the color in there because it brings that comic hand-drawn style of the dots and really brings it to life. I remember when we streamed it at John's house, he had the color DMD in there, and it just looked amazing compared to the orange grossness that I was so used to.
Actually, you know what I would say, Kevin, about the lighting? Now that I think about this and remember, I mean, this is going back, it's like 10 years ago when I owned it. Yeah. It's a really dark game, actually. And the lighting, this is a game where you're going to want to put good like LEDs in it. It's too dark.
Yeah.
You might want to add spotlights to it. I think this might be a no-brainer for needing like a Pin Stadium kit.
Yeah.
It's just way too dark with stock lighting, especially incandescents. And I don't even think LEDs alone, because there's just areas where they probably should have had lights and they don't. So it's a really dark game. I'd say the lighting is poor on this because of that. You're going to have to mod it and make it better.
Yeah, I agree. I remember, so when I owned it, it was pre-Pin Stadium time, and I had gotten like a light strip to go under the back box to light up the back half of the game, because that's where it gets really dark, because there's so many mechs that are all stacked up, and that even if there are lights in the back, and there are a few, that it can only light up so much of that. So anything you can do, spotlights, Pin Stadiums, LED strips, trough lighting, stuff like that to really make it pop.
Yeah, that's where you're going to spend a lot of time. So you're going to get this game. If you get it stock, you should definitely invest some time into doing some mods on it.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones you want to focus. Start with lighting first, then do the Dead World.
The other lighting moment I remember is it's got the blue and red flashers on the ramps when you get into
that's
mode.
Good. Really
cool.
Oh, that's a cool mode. I know we haven't gotten to rules yet, but there's a lot of modes in this game, and I like the modes. The modes are cool. It shows off the DMD, it shows off the humor. But that mode, before you forget, you gotta it shows like a car kind of moving, a car chase moving back and forth, and you're shooting missiles at it. And you shoot a missile, like if you can time the ramp when the car's like on like the right side, it will shoot a missile and hit the car. That's what you're trying to do. So that's like for 1993, that is an inventive mode. I think the game is kind of well thought out in terms of like the integration, the humor. I really like it. I really like how they did that.
Yeah, and so it does have some cool light show moments in it, even if you don't necessarily have the best lights in it. Those pop even with regular incandescent flashers. So very cool. So that leads us into gameplay. Why don't you take us into gameplay, Nick?
So the shots. This is a wide body game, and the shots are pretty good. Like the shot layout is good in there. There's some flow for sure. It's a flowy game. My biggest problem with this game is this is the era where Bally Williams doing wide bodies. It seems like that's what they were releasing for a couple of years. And I always thought that this game didn't need to be a wide body. It made the wide body made it feel more clunky, even though it's like a flow type of game. It's not as smooth as it can and should be. I think that there's no justification on that game where it needed to be a wide body. If this was a standard body game, I think it would have been much better. I think it would have been a faster game. And while I like the gameplay, I think it's good. That's certainly not necessarily a weak point. It would have been so much better if it was a standard body game.
Yeah, so you wouldn't be able to cram as much in as you did with a wide body, the amount of space the wide body gives you. Like, you've got that huge planet in there. You've got a bunch of shots there's like the upper flipper. If you've played Willy Wonka, it's got a similar layout for the upper flipper that feeds a few shots up at the top. And there's all these wireforms going all over the place. So I think there would have been some sacrifice moving this down to a standard body game. But Bally Williams was so like hot on super pins at this point that
maybe
it was.
Wonka's a standard body game. It's got a lot going on,
but it doesn't have like that massive planet in it. You know.
Well, yeah. I mean, the planet didn't. My thing is the planet takes up a lot of real estate that dominates the wide body game, but you can do the planet without making it that big.
Yeah, you could scale that down. I agree.
I think you would get better gameplay and like maybe at the cost of a smaller planet, but you'd still have that in there.
Yeah, and you'd have to do maybe like 3 drop targets in the middle instead of 5.
Maybe
because you don't want to sacrifice the shots, because the shots like feel good and they're like I wouldn't want it to turn into a Houdini where you're sacrificing.
Yeah,
Houdini feels like it should be a wide body with how tight those shots are, right?
Yeah. You got a point for sure. I really wish it's like like in an ideal like hypothetical world you can see what this game looked like as a standard body versus wide body, and I put money on it being better, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, because there is a lot of open real estate here in the middle that is just like, okay, why do we need all that? But then there's a lot in the back and around the sides. So curious. It would be interesting to see how that plays. Somebody make it in virtual pinball real quick, and we'll check it out. Rules. So the rules are, I think, the one like downside of this game. What you mentioned, it's got a bunch of cool modes, and I agree. It's so if you look at, let me see if I've got so if you look at the links in the chain that go across the playfield, all those are different modes. And if you've never played this game before, you can select which mode you have lit by. So on the side of the cabinet right here, you can see it's got standard flipper buttons and also the bigger like diamond shaped buttons. You can the right button, the diamond shaped button on the side, will let you select which mode you want. And I typically started with blackout. It was like a 2-ball multi-ball.
Yeah.
And so you can get right into a 2-ball multi-ball, and you want to hit the upper flipper ramp shot from that to cash out points on there. But it's a good way to kind of get a feel for the game, get some points on the board. The modes are good in variety from a game of this era, but once you get through to the like wizard mode, it's like the wizard mode is a little lacking, I think. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of is what it is, and it's not particularly difficult to get to either. So I think that holds it back, because you can kind of plow through the modes pretty quick and then get to the ultimate challenge, and then, all right, I've seen it, I've done it. That's kind of all there is, even with all these cool physical elements on the game. I think this would be a great candidate for an update in rules.
Mm-hmm. I agree 100% with what Kevin said. Even when I was, a year and a half into pinball, right? So I've made a lot of progress. I've played a ton more machines. I've gotten better as a player. This game only lasted in my collection of like a couple games for maybe 3 to 6 months at the most. I mean, it didn't last. I was able to get to the end, and it fell flat. I think at the time for 1993, there's some inventive rules and there's a lot of modes, but it doesn't have the lastability factor, because after you spend no time with it, you're going to get to the end and it's going to be a little stale. I think this is a game that, as maybe it will come back to my collection as I'm kind of acquiring games again. I have a really large collection. It'd be cool to have in there and fun, but it just doesn't hold up, especially now, in 2021, where games and rules and expectations on lastability are just much higher than when you released a game in 1993 for on location just to make money.
Agreed. I mean, looking at it from a mechanical standpoint, it would be like a $15,000 Stern Super LE in 2021 terms. but from a rules perspective, it's really where it falls behind, and that's what the games of today really differentiate themselves with, is that next level of rule, especially for a home player. This is still a perfectly fine location game, and I love playing it. You know, if we go out and there's one in an arcade, I'll gladly play it at any time because I have fun with it. But yeah, if given unlimited space, absolutely, it'd be one I have. It's a great looking game, great playing game, but you know, we all have constraints in space and money, and something's got to go. And so that was a game when I was looking through and I was going, I guess I'm kind of done with this game.
I forgot you even owned one, Kevin, to be honest.
Yeah, twice.
Oh, wow. Jesus Christ. That's how forgettable that is. Yeah, it typically doesn't last long in collections because of that. That's not to say it's a bad game, but we frame this from collectors and in the home and all that. What we didn't talk about in the rules is super game. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so that is a cool feature that adds another level of playability to it. So in the arcade, you could put extra credits in the machine and play super game, which presents with you a different set of rules where you start off in this crazy multi-ball, and I think you have to hit all the drop targets. I can't remember the specifics of the mode, but it's like a multi-ball frenzy mode, basically, where you start off with all these jackpots and crazy multi-balls, and then once you get down to one ball, I think you start back into regular play, right?
Yeah, it's cool, right? It's like it's I would call it a novelty, but it's nice and it's fun to have in there, and maybe newer players will like that, or if you have people over, it's kind of instant satisfaction of multi-ball and just another nice little touch and layer. And again, for 1993, there's a lot of respect in terms of what they packed into this game. Yeah,
this would still be a game that I would definitely recommend to a new player, and this kind of gets us into the last ability of the game. That's our last category. I would still, if you're just getting into pinball, you want a lot of game, you don't necessarily want to buy a $6,000 to $15,000 new pinball machine. Grab a Judge Dredd. You're going to have a great time with it. It's going to teach you a lot about, you know, how to play modes and wizard modes and things like that. You're going to have fun shooting it. It's going to look great in your game room. The sound and music and callouts are really good. But when you're looking to buy a new game, it's probably going to be one that you end up moving on. So Nick, why don't we get into our scores for the game? Let me see if I can pull up our website.
Yeah, it's been so long. I'm glad we're doing a review again. I like to get this out there. And again, Kevin and I wanted to review this game. We wanted to review kind of games that first-time buyers of pinball machines might be looking at based on the availability and pricing. So hopefully this has been helpful there. All right, Kevin, you got where are we? Pinball Adventures. Holy shit,
I had Punny Factory up there for some reason. We were,
why not?
we were looking at it. All right, so if you go to buffalopinball.com/podcast, you can see our ratings of past games and also our score key, which is from 0 to 2 is Burn It, 3 to 5 is An Expensive Nightlight, 6 to 8 is A Solid Game, 9 to 10 is Get Your Wallets Out. Do you want to start or should I start?
I'll go. Well, who usually goes first? Because I say, and then we have this weird order where we try to mix it up.
Yeah, I can go first because I feel like
go ahead.
You always go first, and then you say I go a little bit higher than you.
I've got a number in my head.
Okay,
I've got a number in my head, so I'm locked in.
I was thinking 8, like solid game 8, but after we got started talking about the rules, I think that's going to knock it down to a 7 because it does so much so well that for the rules to be as kind of easy to plow through as they are, I think that holds it back, and it's really the only thing that holding it back. So it's definitely in the solid game range. It gets everything right. Even the modes are fun. There's just not enough there to keep it interesting in your home for a long time. So I'm going to give it a 7.
I'm 100% with you on that, Kevin. And at the end of the day, last ability is probably the most important category when we're talking about doing reviews of pinball machines, because again, we're talking from the perspective of potentially buying and recommending somebody spend money on a pinball machine. And look, you don't want to buy a pinball machine that you're going to get bored with in a few months. You can, that's fine. It depends on what you're looking for and how easy it is to move things around. But you just got to recognize where a Judge Dredd might play in your collection. New player, this might be higher and a great recommendation for a new player, especially the pricing. But I'm going to go with 7. It does a lot of things right, a lot of respect for this game. I'm happy I own it. I'm happy I spent time with it. but it didn't last long, and I'm, I doubt I'll ever have one again, or what the circumstances are, but a good amount of respect because it does a lot of things right.
Agreed. Especially, when we owned it, there hadn't been this new wave of, we're awash in amazing games these days. So a lot of folks were looking back to the Bally Williams era for the great games of the time, especially if you didn't want to spend 10K on a Medieval Madness, which is what they were going for at the time. So you have to take it in the context of where we were at that time and when we bought the game. But I still think it's a good game for new players. Still a lot of fun, but you're gonna find your time with Judge Dredd is short, I would guess.